said, looked at him, I said, listen, mate, I'm so excited. I could do this fight for you and win.
This time on Combat Central, esteemed Muay Thai and kickboxing trainer, Mark Pease.
You've got to understand who to slap and who to hug. I'm accountable as a sports coach to know what makes them tick, and doing those helps. If they succeed, I succeed, and I really enjoy watching people succeed.
Pease has been at the forefront of combat sports in Australia since the late 80s. With over 35 years of knowledge in the fight game, the humble and revered coach played key roles in the golden era of Muay Thai and kickboxing back in the 90s and early 2000s. Skip to today, and the Aussie mastermind coach is one of the most feared and established fight stables across the nation, with names like Chad Collin, Jayden Eynaud, and James Honey, to name a few. Pease and I sat down to talk about his career, being a father figure to his fighters, always evolving as a trainer, some huge upcoming fights for his team, and if Australia is going through another golden age of combat sports. Mate, thank you so much for joining me, Mark. Really appreciate it. First of all, congratulations, mate. Your gym just been on a tear these past, not just these past few years, but pretty much since you started it. I mean, all those years ago. Talk me through, talk me through a little bit before we get into your gym. I want to hear about your background. You used to be a fighter yourself. Give us a little bit of background about you as a fighter and when you decided to kind of hang that up and start your gym.
Well, it started back in 88. I was obviously doing Zendo Kai karate at the time. And from there, I went to a kickboxing fight with my then karate instructor. And he took me to the fight. And I can even remember the two guys that were fighting. It was a guy called Gary Pedersen, who was from Sydney, and a guy by the name of Tony Quinn, who was from up here. And I was encapsulated straight away. I thought, whoa, I'd like to do this. And I said to my instructor, I really want to do this. But I was a kid, and he's going, I can't train you with that. So that was it. So I sort of went home and sort of did up some little sums myself and thought, well, I can try and do it myself. And it just sort of stemmed from there. So I started learning things my own way. And then sort of one night a week, other than doing karate, I was doing a little bit of kickboxing. And a couple of the guys that were also doing karate with me wanted to do kickboxing. So we started our own thing way back in 88 at a high school one night a week, and then it went on from there. So that's the very raw start of it. The fighting part of it, it was very much, you'd go to a venue, you'd go get weighed in, and they'd say, okay, you weigh 61 kilos, Mark. How many fights? You had 3 or 4, whatever. They said, look, come back in an hour. We'll let you know if we've got somebody for you. And that's pretty much how it was. You'd come back in an hour and said, look, mate, the closest guy we've got, 63 kilos. He's had 5 fights. You've had 4 fights. You're 61. What do you think? And we'd do it. So, look, it was very, very raw back then, but I felt it was a really good grounding to understand. Because, look, we were all still learning back then. It was sort of... as I said, very, very raw. You didn't have a lot to go on, training schedules, things like diets and things like today with the scientific background and stuff. So it was really raw back then. Yeah.
That's awesome. So your fight career, how many fights did you have all up?
30 in total, 25 wins. But as I said, look, mate, I was a slightly above average fighter. I wouldn't say I was a very good fighter, but only because I was doing things my way. I didn't know anything better at that time. So when I first started going to Thailand, I learned a really big mistake straight away, because I was already an Australian kickboxing champion, thinking I was a bit of not a superstar, but I probably thought I was better than what I actually really, really was over there. And I got handed my backside to me quite quickly over there, learnt the hard way. And from then it was sort of like, if I want to learn, I've got to come here and take that back. So that's really what we were doing, going over there for a month at a time and just doing our own thing, like in camps where no one could speak English. We couldn't speak very much Thai. You learnt by the grunts and groans. So the hard yards were done, which made it a lot easier for my boys today. I can say, okay, look, we can go to this camp because they do this, or we can go, to this camp because they do that. So it was good. But I really enjoyed it back then. But now you go to a gym, I won't throw out any names, but some of the gyms today, you can go over to Thailand and train, and you're going to have a Western coach, and then you get your mate holding pace to you, or a Western guy. I like the authenticity of Muay Thai. I really like the cultural side of it, so I've got a lot of Thai friends because of it, and I stick true to my values with Muay Thai.
I think that's such a great thing about you as well, and your gym is you're not afraid to tell people, like, if you want to get good at this, you've got to go over to Thailand at some stage. And I think that's really admirable. And like a lot of coaches, you know, would be very reluctant to do something like that. But it's really interesting that you have that mindset. And I mean, just look at the outcome of your stable of fighters. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, it's been like that for, probably since about the late 90s with guys like Pixie, Aaron TS2 Lee, Danny Dudowski, Dan Mulder, Brody Smith, Matt McTavish is still coaches, Diamond Jim McLeod, all those guys. I like the autonomy of those guys because everyone was different. Like Diamond Jim and Aaron were very small fighters, 52 and 55, where Danny was 76, 78. So you're not going to train those boys the same way. So I like the autonomy of those guys. Taking a little bit of, what's the word you're looking for? Probably accountability for themselves. And then we'd work together. So, okay, well, that works. We'll work with it. So I've always been a big believer. I'm not going to change somebody because I don't have a certain style. My style is I'll train people the way that I feel they should be trained. You know, if you're a short person that's got a big punch, you work to a Muay Mutt style. If you got like tall and you got good hips and knees, you have a Muay Kao style. So everybody's different, and that's the way we train them. Simple as that. And I like their input as well for the autonomy of it all. People learn differently, as you know. It's everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Just going through some of your stable of fighters, mate. You got, Chad Collins, Jagger Chan, Jayden Eynaud, James Honey, just to name a few. I mean, that's really incredible that you have those names at your gym, and they are absolutely killing it at the moment with massive fights to come. What's it like? I mean, having that success, it must be palpable in the gym. I mean, coming in and having that incredible group of fighters speak to the how it feels when you go and train there every day.
Well, we've got a really good core group. Again, all the names you mentioned, plus Jesse Astle, and there's a new group coming through, a little bit younger, that aren't at that level. But all the guys like James, Chad, Astle, and all those guys will help with everybody else. Yeah, treat them how they should. Do the hard yards, this is how it's going to be. And they get thrown around, they get kicked around, they get punched around, all the bits and pieces, but we all learn together. Then you got the coaches like myself, you got Darren Freiberg, who's been there 25 years. You got Mr. C, Michael Unsworth, been there 30 plus years. And all these guys it's a really good, most gyms will tell you the same, it's a really good community, but everyone will help everyone. I don't like the alpha male. That's my number one fighter. Whoever's fighting on the day or that week, that's who the attention's paid. And you probably see in some of the Instagram lives we put up, you'll see Chad standing beside James while he's doing all the bits and pieces. And then, like if Regan or Clay are fighting, everyone's in their area pushing them along just to get them to the next level as well. Knowing what it can be like and what it will be like if you push the hard yards in. Simple.
That's amazing. Yeah, I definitely do see that. And I mean, look at the results. I mean, you can't fight that, can you? It's awesome. Going to Chad Collins, he just had a big fight over in Japan. Obviously got the win there. There was a massive win.
Yep.
Talk to me about that fight. Talk to me about going over there and competing over there.
Look, Japan is, to us, it's always been a very phenomenal place to go. And they treat all their martial artists like gods. Like, Chad will be there signing posters, getting interviews, photos. And it was the same with Jesse Astle and all those guys. And before, back in the early 2000s, guys like Aaron Lee, Danny Dudowski, Diamond Jim McLeod, they were all the same. They were signing posters, getting pictures with everybody. Yeah, it's another level over there. Obviously the population there as well. But this fight was different because the last time Chad was there, we had a loss, and we went back to the drawing board. And then he fought on my show and won the WMO super lightweight world title by second round knockout. But then I think he knew that in himself that he had to really perform well on this stage. So this time there, we sort of, I was in his hip pocket the whole time. Like I'm talking everything from with the weight cut, I'm making sure he's getting that done properly. He was in the room beside me, and then getting photos taken, the interviews, getting his food ready, his water. So eventually, I was right there to make sure there was nothing going to go. We couldn't make a mistake. And then it was to the day of the fight was, getting the check by the doctor, and then going out the back, and then having a pad hit out, getting a rub down, and then putting the groin guard on, getting the hands signed off. Wherever he was, I was beside him the whole way, then doing a pad hit out. So I was doing, like I usually have Darren Freiberg there to either do a pad hit out or a hand rack, but I had to do the whole lot. So, and then at the back, that's where the magic happens, because sometimes you've got to really get into Chad's head to really push and persevere with it. Chad, you are the greatest 63.5 kilo on the world today. You are the man. You are, and then, I could see he was believing it, but not really grasping it fully, because he had a little bit of a scare on it. But then towards the end, I had a bit of a giggle, and I just looked at him. I said, "Listen, mate, I'm so excited. I could do this fight for you and win." And then he started laughing, and that was the catalyst. It's sort of like, okay, we're time. Let's go. Yeah. And as you saw what happened, we trained at the back for it, and we did the technique training, and what I did on the pads and what my other coach, Ek, did on the pads, he did exactly that in the fight, and that won. So, and in the way that it was meant to happen. So we're pretty happy with it.
Yeah, it was great seeing how, you being right by his side the whole time. That definitely, it's just got to play a massive part in those victories, and, getting in his head and helping him out. So props for you for doing that. That was amazing. Where do you see him going from here?
Yeah, look, you just got to work with each fighter, and I put out to promoters, because I'm like, when we travel, be it with Chad or James, I've taken James to Paris, we've gone to England, we've gone to America. I always talk to the promoters to try and get a good rapport with them, because this, as you know, we're a minority sport. So by getting good, and every now and again I'll send them an email if they've got anything popping up, and then they already know what's happening with our gym, so they know the fighters are there. So we get contacted quite a lot, but again, it comes down to negotiations with some of these promoters. No one likes to get rid of that, so it does get hard at times, but we're persevering.
Going to another one of your fighters, Jayden Eynaud, he's an amazing fighter. Just another person that speaks to your stable of amazing fighters. He's got a fight coming up in Russia, so this will be a big one. Very excited to see this. What's the preparation been like for this one? How's he feeling? He always looks incredible. Is he kicking it up a gear as well?
We've changed it up to more of a kick, because it's a kickboxing fight. Yeah. It's not necessarily a Muay Thai fight. So to me, it's slightly different. We're going to be doing a lot more. If you look at someone like Chad and James, they can adapt a little bit more to both styles, where they can get in and get out. Whereas in Muay Thai, you tend to sit back a little bit and fight from the posture position. Whereas in kickboxing, you're in and out, stepping back, you're switching and crossing and all those sorts of things. So we've been putting a lot of that work into Jayden. But funny you mentioned it, because James is fighting 4 days before Jayden fights for the K1 ISKA world title. So James has been helping him with his footwork. Again, the aspect of everyone sort of tends to help everybody else. Do you know what I mean? So that's what we really like. It's not, my word's not always gospel. I'm just the guy that guides these guys and helps them to get to where they, I believe they can be. So James has given him some really good footwork, because Jayden sort of said a few weeks back, doesn't matter what I do with James, he always tagged me this. And I thought, okay, so James sort of took that on board, went and helped him out. So it's going to be good, because we're going to Russia. It's an untried place for us. I've never been there before.
I was going to say, I hadn't seen any of your fighters fight there.
No. But it's a really big promotion, the Ural promotion, and the guy from GV management team from England has got us on board with it. So
wow,
so fingers crossed it goes well and we can continue going back there, because Russia's to me is an untapped identity at the moment for fighting. Definitely.
Were you touching on it a little bit before about getting into Chad Collin's head and helping him just before his fight in Japan? One thing that I saw with Jayden that you did, a credible video that you guys posted up of you chatting with him backstage and pumping him up. And I literally had to go smash a bag for 12 rounds as hard as I could as soon as I heard that. I literally had goosebumps through that thing. What's your feeling when you're making those speeches, and what's the mindset behind it? Because that is, like you were touching on before with Chad, it's so crucial to help them just before you go out, because they're obviously, fighters are so nervous, and when I went out for fights I was terrified sometimes, but having someone there with that clear head to be like, you've done the work, go out there and get it done. Talk to me about that.
Okay, I'll backtrack a little bit here.
Please do.
Look, many years ago, probably in the mid 2000s, fighting started to evolve a little bit. It used to be the old days, you could sort of slap somebody and, hey, you're doing it wrong, you're doing this, you should be doing that, and getting their head a little bit more. But there's a lot of fighters now out there that are a little bit more, okay, social mediaized, and they're more attuned to being a little bit more emotional. So you've got to understand who to slap and who to hug. Little crucial saying there. So some people you can do that, but there was guys that I could sort of like Pixie and Aaron and Danny and all those sort of guys, and Jimmy, I could give a bit of a yell to if they were a little bit down in the corner, and I could remotivate them. And then there was guys that I couldn't yell at because they would say, hang on, I was getting belted in the corner, but yet you yell at me, so why would I continue on? So I went back, I signed up for a uni course. I'd always liked to do outside work, so I learned, I did a Cert 3 and 4 in fitness, which I found predominantly based around bodybuilding. So then I did a Cert 3 and 4 in sports coaching, which I really, really enjoyed. And the guy that did it for me, Damien Martins, and we kept on, he said, Mark, you should go to uni, do a degree, get something more behind you. So I thought, then probably about 2014, 15, I hooked up at the University of Queensland and they had a new course with sports coaching. So I did that. And one of the key subjects I got onto was sports coaching psychology. And that, to me, was a game changer. It was a big game changer. I learned how to understand the more modern athlete, how to get, knowing what makes them tick, what colours they like, how their mum is, how their dad is, if their boyfriend or their girlfriend are sick, just knowing a bit more about them rather than just some fights. So that way they think, hang on, he's paying a little bit more attention to me. He does understand what I think. So I want them to get on my side and I need them to be on my side as well. So we worked together doing that. So with Chad, he's completely different to Jayden. Jayden, if I get in there, the bravado, and start looking at him and telling him that this is how it's going to be, I can just see with Jayden, and he keeps rolling it in. Whereas Chad, convince him you're a warrior, you're born for this stuff as well, mate. Come on, we've trained hard for this. You come from a fighting family, and then everybody's different. So some people I can, do minimal motivations and, assertiveness, but there's guys you've really got to work hard with, and mate, that everyone's different. So, and that's the game.
Yeah.
Being that these guys all pay me, I'm accountable as a sports coach to know what makes them tick, and doing those helps.
It's awesome that you did a bit more training, like just to kind of brush up on that. That's incredible. And props to you for doing that. Cause that's,
look, I'm even reading a really good book now. As you
here we go.
Yes, mate.
The winning mindset. There we go.
Yes, it's very. It was given to me by a friend. It's strategies for sports, business, and life.
Yeah.
Things. I always like to keep abreast of things, knowing new ideas and things like that, because you never stop learning. And we can all hold pads and things like that. But I believe to be a good coach, and there's a lot of good coaches out there. You'll see they're a lot more personal. They'll hug them. They're the person at the back, win, lose, or draw at the end. Everyone else, if you win, you got all your fans, but as soon as you lose, it's sort of nobody around. You've got to see, I've got to be that person, and that's what I'm doing. I'm accountable for these guys and girls as well.
Yep. Awesome, mate. That sounds what a great thing to do. Definitely, it's. I think it is so crucial with modern, fighting as well. Just anything to get that extra edge on another fight. Like you were saying before, I love how you've got the two things where you've got or multiple different things, but you go and you're like, you've got to go to Thailand, but at the same time, we've got, I've got to be in your head and help you with different aspects of the fighting. So I think that's crucial, mate.
It is.
Yeah, definitely.
The fighting, it's evolved so much probably in the last 5 to 8 years. It used to be a rules, but now a lot of the athletes, even on 5 or 6 fights, these guys have got dietitians, a strength coach, a mind coach, a pad coach. And these are guys just doing Muay Thai. And I think, whoa, back when I was playing, I was all of that, I was the mind coach, your strength coach, your pad coach, dietitian, but now they're going outside influences that sort of help them along as well. So do I believe it's good? I think there's a lot of things on the plate. Some work, some don't work. As long as it's fight specific, with outside coaches, I don't mind. But I like to help. When I talk to some of the sports coaches on the outside, with that, as long as they've got those things that are specifically set up for my athlete, I'm on board with it for sure.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's got to be that good balance, doesn't it? Of
Yeah, it does.
Both.
It does.
Being a good, different range of things, but also at the time not overexerting yourself and not kind of diluting the true core part of it, which is the fighting aspect.
Exactly.
Which is
that's the main emphasis. You are a fighter.
Yeah.
It's got to be fight specific. So training Muay Thai is probably the clutch of you, probably 5 to 6 days a week. Training, your strength and conditioning might be 1 or 2 days, but it has to be virtually fight specific. Most of it is predominantly explode motion, not implode motion. So you're not trying to build, you're trying to strengthen. So just little things like that some of these strength coaches that haven't fought now starting to understand a little bit. So you
Definitely
can see that sort of thing happening.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to another one of your fighters, you were talking about him before, James Honey.
Sweet as.
Yeah, sweet as. Can't wait to see him fight next. You were just speaking about it. Talk me about his preparation for this next fight. You were saying he's been working with Jayden a little bit. How's all that going?
Look, he's coming along great. James is one of these guys that, to me, should have already been up there, but has had a couple of injuries along the way, which has sort of put him back, and then he's got back up again and he got another injury. So the time is right now. He's sitting, I think, number 1 and 2 in WMO and WBC. So we've got this fight, and we're really pushing hard to get a fight with Joe Ryan, just as David Penderby did as well, to try and, we believe that we can do it, and so does James. But this fight, it's a K1 world title fight. That'll get his name out to the world a little bit more as well. So he'll have bit like Chad, he'll have the kickboxing as well as the Muay Thai. So again, when we start to look at payments, we obviously know that the payments are a lot bigger in kickboxing than what they are in Muay Thai for some reason. But so James is one of those guys in the gym that he has his set routine and knows what he's doing the whole way through and loves it. So we've put a few little things in there as well that he likes. We've adjusted a couple of areas that we believe that he needs to adjust. And as I said, his autonomy is perfect, mate. He learns, he thrives on it. And as I said, his input is quite good as well. And he's phenomenal input.
That's great. Yeah, like you were just saying, it looks like I saw a post he put up the other day talking about, World Championship is potentially on the cards in the not too distant future. How far off from that do you think he is?
Well, I've spoken to 2 promoters already. One promoter is looking in December, perhaps, and another promoter is looking in February. So one's WBC, one's WMO, and that's just for Joe Ryan. Because look, at present, as James and David Penderby will both testify to, Joe Ryan is the man at the moment. Do we believe we've got the tools to do it? We do. We certainly do. So if we can get him here to at least put one of those titles on the line, we believe we can take that title. So that's it. Yeah, simple.
I wanted to talk about your gym, mate. Obviously, we've been thinking a little bit before, but it's such an incredible place. You're training these amazing fighters. You're obviously building them up and having this massive rapport with them from a young age. Talk to me about being kind of almost a father figure for some of these people. I mean, some of these people have really tough lives. Some, just kind of need an extra person and to set them straight. What's it been like being this kind of father figure for a lot of those fighters?
Look, I enjoy it. Everybody's, as I said before, everybody's different. Everybody learns differently. Everybody takes things on board differently. One thing I've always been big at is they walk into my gym, they've got to be prepared to train hard. If I can see someone's walked in, slightly off, and then I always talk to everybody and make sure that things are all clicking along nicely. Some people have got things going on in their lives that you need to sort of be, wary of, that you can sort of balance the books out a little bit so they can train properly and things like that. So I think I've always done it. I've always been a sort of, a selfless person when it comes to that. I really enjoy working with people, not only on the physicality side, because to me, anybody can hold pads, but I really like to get into somebody's head a little bit and sort of help them out if I can help them out. And like I said, if they succeed, I succeed. And I really enjoy watching people succeed, become a world champion, get enough money to get deposit on the house, all those sorts of things. That makes me feel good that I've done that. I've been a part of it with
of course.
Darren Freiberg or Mr. C and all those guys that have, hand wrapper, massager, masseuse, promoter, and all those sorts of things along the way. So if we can do that, I believe we've done a pretty good wicket so far with it.
That's awesome, mate. Love to hear that. Talking about that, like in terms of having someone who's troubled come into your gym and knowing, like, I know we don't have to talk about this too much if you don't want, but I just think it's a really interesting aspect and what makes a good teacher and a good coach is someone who can pick out that when you're having to approach someone and someone comes in and they've got an issue or they're troubled or there's something happening at home. How do you approach that? How, like you were talking about, you kind of are wary of it, but how do you approach them? Do you just come in, do you talk to them a little bit? Do you give them like pointers and stuff like to kind of help them through that? Or is it mainly like this is just come in and train and this will help you a lot?
Look, again, everybody's different. So depending on the person, some people I'll have a sit down and have a chat with about it. And if it's really bad, I'll tell them to go home or, do you feel like you need to train? There's guys that'll, the guys that think they're the hard ones and that obviously have a couple of issues, they just train hard and we make them train hard for that particular reason and they feel good about themselves when they've left. So again, it just depends on who the person is. As I said before, you need to know who to hug and who to slap.
I love that.
It's a true statement. It's a true statement.
Yeah.
It was a guy called Rick Charles with the hockey coach that said that. And he said, you've got to know who to hug and who to slap. And that's a true testament, man. It really, really is.
I love that. That's a great saying. We were talking about your fighters. They're amazing. We're talking about Australian Muay Thai at the moment. It seems to be on a bit of a tear. I mean, obviously probably not the same golden era of, back in the early 2000s. But I would say that it does look like there is kind of flashes of it turning that way. I mean, you got your Max Vickers, Charlie Barbs, your Jayden Eynaud's, all yours crew. There's so many great fighters around Australia. Do you think we are kind of in for potentially a new golden era of Muay Thai and kickboxing?
I think we'd be silly not to grasp it. And the reason I say that, I believe Thailand is nowhere near as strong as it used to be. As in fighters, but training wise, you've got all these camps now, and they're doing some really good promotions. The RWS, Super Champ, Thai Fight, all those sorts of things. So there's a lot more avenues now to go out to Thailand and train and get on these TV shows, as Jagger's just proven. And there's been other guys like, who else has been on there? Many guys and girls from Australia as well. You got Celeste over there on one. You had who else? Davina Martin was on one. All of them, and Keros and all those guys have been on these. And you tend to watch a little bit more when you know it's from your own backyard. So I believe, when we were fighting, it was a lot different. You'd be lucky to make a Wednesday afternoon show at Rajam Danurm, and I felt that things were a lot harder to get through back then. But I believe the Thais now aren't as strong as they used to be. Don't get me wrong, there's still some great Thai fighters out there, but I believe we're catching up. I really do. I'm talking Australia, England, Brazil, Russia, America. They're even catching up as well. So I think because we've had a lot of Thai trainers come, to us and all other countries that have helped us to progress. Because back in the late 80s, early 90s and so on, we had to go there and we cop punishments. You'd go to bar fights and you get belted by a guy that they said, pick the guy with no scars because he's the guy that's been beat up the most. And it was logical, oh yeah, good. But then unbeknownst to you, he's probably had 600 fights and used to fight at the stadiums type thing. So things were really different back then. Nowadays, we're matching with those guys. And that's not just my gym. That's, you look at Moyu, Riddlers, Cowsock, all those gyms, and others as well. So that sort of matching with all these people and quite good too. Quite good.
Yeah. Going back to just what you mentioned there, getting in punch-ons in Thailand. Talk me through that, mate. So you go into bars when you were training over there where people would...
I got a rude shock. I think it was probably the second time I went there. We were at a camp and we went to... we were walking down the street, myself and my friend Aaron Warner, and then we got told that don't go into the bars because they've got, they have paid bar fights. And I thought, we had to look at it and all that sort of stuff. And we went there and obviously did it, and it was, you walk in there and it's straight away the maitre d' picks you and he goes, oh, you fighter, does it show, does it show, and you go pick the guys with all the scars on them, and why is that? Well, he's the one that's been hit the most. The guy with no scars can't be touched, and you're thinking, well, common sense prevails. Yeah, he's probably right. So you pick someone, and I was watching guys get flogged, absolutely flogged, hand up here as well, So, but then I can remember going there one night, and there was this the next a couple of weeks after we'd been there, and went back there again, and this American sailor and his posse walked in. He was a big boy, he would probably be about 6'3", 6'4", and they told him the same scenario, and the maitre d' looked at us, and he's winking, and I thought, okay. And this boy picked this guy who was probably a good head and shoulders shorter than him, and he was getting, he tailed this Thai up in round one, like really going hammer and tongs on this guy. And the maitre d' walked up and he goes, what do you think? And I said, oh, I think your boy's getting touched up. He says, look. He said, American boy's in the corner, puffing like an old lady. Like this, he said, look at Thai boy, not breathe. He said, you watch, my friend. Come straight out, kick, bang, elbow down, over. So just those things, they're not done anymore because people have become a lot more aware of these sorts of things. Yeah. And as I said, now you can go, and you can go and train there for a month and get on a good promotion and things like that. So the pathways have become a lot more accessible, and that's what's made our Muay Thai community Australia-wide flourish, I believe. Because look, I mean, there's guys from gyms I've never even heard of in Australia. Oh, okay, and he's on Thai Fight or he's on Max Muay Thai and things like that. So, only the elite, even just before COVID, only the elite were on it. But now it seems to be everybody. It's said that, Thailand have opened their doors.
Definitely. I'll just before I let you go, just wanted to what's some big fight news that's coming up apart from those fights we were talking about? Is there anything else from your gym that you want to talk about?
Yeah. Chad Collin is in a big Super 8 at the end of the year.
Wow.
In Japan, with the best kickboxers on the planet, as in you're looking at Miguel Trinidad, who beat him, which is Glory, number one. You got Pech Panarong, Kiat Mukau, the current Glory world champion. And then you got Chad Collins, the current Rise world champion. There's Haraguchi. There's, who else is on there? Vidalis. Big, no, like we're talking the best kickboxers in the world. So we got guys coming from Mexico, Japan, Korea, Portugal, Thailand, Australia. So that will be big. The 21st of December.
Okay. That's awesome.
As in kickboxing terms goes, it's the biggest thing. Yeah.
Mate, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the chat today, mate. I'll chat with you soon.
No problems at all, Harry. Anytime, mate. Appreciate it.